Daniel.
Hey, welcome back to the Edge.
Hey, great to see you, mate. It's Halloween in America. Imagine that. It's now infected the entire Western civilization.
Hey,
So yeah, we're all pretty happy about it actually. But hopefully we can pray away those demonic attacks that will undoubtedly take place tonight. I think there's child ritual sacrifices on full moons in America on nights like this, Daniel.
well,
So
Hillary
good luck.
Clinton. Hillary Clinton's doing some kind of ritual. She rides around on a broom.
There's a video they say that some detectives at the New York Police Department watched. And the video title is called Frazzle Drip. And that video is meant to portray Hillary Clinton doing heinous things to a underage girl. And she's meant to have been doing those things with Huma Abedin. And it was meant to be all found on Wiener's laptop. Because remember, Wiener was the original Wiener before Epstein got his Wiener out down there at Epstein Island.
We're not being gross here, but Australian Ben, everybody's pulling out the wiener, man. You got that CNN guy; he's pulling it out and doing stuff on Zoom. You got Wiener doing his stuff. You got Hunter Biden walking around with his robe open with some minor girl on the bed. I mean, what is it with the package like this coming out?
I can't believe that guy said, oh, I was just, I thought I was between takes here. I thought I was just having a bit of time on my own. Who steps out of a work meeting to go and masturbate, but they don't actually step out of the office because they're sitting in their home office on Zoom? And did you see the three women he was masturbating to, Daniel? They wouldn't invoke any fantasy in any red-blooded man I know.
Now, you realize, Australian Ben, we're talking about the potential first son of the president of the United States. That's who we're talking about.
Yeah, well, Hunter Biden. What can you say about Hunter Biden? Let's go back and let's give some credit to Dave Hodges as well. I've been listening to the Common Sense program for some time. I think it's a phenomenal show. I was very happy for him to come on board before me tonight. But with Hunter Biden, I think there's been a devious plan to enslave the world, Daniel. And the plan has actually been to eradicate the project for the new American century, or to keep this Anglo-American empire going for the next century. Hunter Biden has been implicated in facilitating deals that his father had organized over decades. And Joe Biden's brothers have also been involved in these things. Now, for the Chinese to roll out their totalitarian plan, for the Chinese to take over the world, because people have got to remember, geopolitically, China have been the factory slaves of the Western world for the last century. They've been the ones making iPhones for cents in a dollar in factories. They're sick of it, Daniel. There's 50 million new millionaires in China. These are the new young super rich. And that's a lot of consumers with a lot of money to spend. And they don't have to leave China anymore to necessarily get the things they want. Joe Biden, we know, is on his knees for President Xi over there. We know China's got him by the balls, so to speak. But I prefer to think that Joe Biden's actually been leashed by the Chinese leader.
Mm-hmm.
And his son has been proven now through video evidence to have engaged with depraved sexual acts with minors, sexual acts that include BDSM themes. And this is being used to compromise Joe Biden and for China to use him at their will. So it's a strange time, Daniel, and on Halloween, strange things happening. Yeah, Hillary Clinton's a bad woman, and Hunter Biden's probably snorting crack right now of some hooker's backside.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think I would ever hear uh, a story of well-known people masturbating in the same week. The Scully guy from CNN and Hunter Biden. I was like, what's going on here? But I got a feeling though. To your point, Australian Ben, that the Bidens aren't the only one that's compromised. I think that some on the Supreme Court are compromised. A bunch of people, left and right, in the government is compromised. That's how they've had this laptop of Hunter Biden's for over a year in the FBI, because they're all compromised. Everybody's probably whacking off, and then the Chinese have got their videos too.
Um, Yeah, that's right. Leaders in the Western world can be compromised because they drink, they go to lavish parties, they do things in secret, and therefore, when they want to join the club, they do things outside of the norm.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's cool in the club and they can perform that deed in front
Mm-hmm.
of the necessary people, well, they believe they're a part of it then. But they're still controlled and steered, Daniel. And they're sinister people, mate. Like, look at Kamala Harris. Look at the way she laughs and cackles. The way
Mm-hmm.
she laughs and cackles sounds like Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Something's wrong there.
Yeah.
And can I just say about her as well, Daniel? This separation we have with somebody like her, who 4 years ago she was lauded and everyone welcomed her onto the stage as the first Indian American. And she was proudly proclaiming her mother's heritage. And now, all of a sudden, 4 years later, she's become an African American. And
Yeah.
Daniel, I thought all of that ended when Trump, put a nail in the coffin for Pocahontas and how he forced her to do the DNA test. And what was 1024th Indian she was. It turned out Trump actually had more Indian DNA than
Mm-hmm.
what Pocahontas thought she had.
Yeah.
So, you've got a riot show about to happen over there, mate. And yeah, they're not backing down. It is full steam ahead. I'm sorry to say this might be the last good Halloween for a long time, because the next Halloween will be more like the Purge. And the Purge could happen on November 4th or 5th.
Did you were you able to listen to my chat with Dave Hodges?
Yeah, I was. I enjoyed it.
Well, you may have noticed I took a line from you, our interview last time with you, because you were pointing out that the world really is literally depending on America's freedom or to remain free, certainly to protect our Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms. And so I use that, and I think that's so relevant. And so I just want to let you know that was from you.
Oh, that's all right, Daniel. Everything I got, I pretty much got from you or someone that was on your show anyway, mate. So those bees, they're buzzing around and they're giving us all ideas.
Mm.
The gun issue is a gigantic issue. Look what just happened in Nice, in France. You have elderly women being beheaded in Catholic churches. And then you have Islamist maniacs running out into the street and attempting to behead even more people. They're screaming Allah Akbar. Guns are necessary not just because of them, but more importantly because if the police are the only ones involved. You chucked up a video, Daniel. They're the only ones involved.
Here, let me get it. Let me get out of the way. I'm sorry, I distracted you with that. Everybody, the Australian Ben sent me this video. Ben, what are we looking at here?
That's just out the front this morning at about 7 a.m. here at the Gold Coast. So I like to just go for a walk along there. It's pretty good. Yeah, come along, Daniel. Forget about the bucking Broncos, mate. We'll put you on a jet ski and it'll be happy days.
Whew, yeah, I see some jet skis out there, man. I'm there. That's one of my favorite thing to do. Do you live near here?
Yeah, right there, Daniel, on the water, mate. Like right there. There's
What?
apartments
No, wait,
there.
wait. That's your houseboat?
No, Daniel, not in the houseboat. I live. I think I zoom around in a moment and you'll see apartments along the road.
Okay, apartments.
Okay, so the big apartments there that
Okay.
you just quickly saw, they're the ones I live in.
Okay, it'll come back around. Let people see. So when they see the
And down
apartment,
there where I zoom in, that's Surfers Paradise.
okay, is it got some big waves down there?
Oh yeah, mate. Where that is, that's the Broadwater. That's where SeaWorld is in Australia.
Uh-huh.
And that's sort of an inland waterway playground. Behind the buildings, which you can see in the distance there, is open water. And that's where Surfers Paradise is. That's where they have all the world-class surfing tournaments.
Uh-huh.
And if you were to go straight ahead over the water there, you would end up in Los Angeles. But you'd probably touch base at Fiji and Hawaii on your way.
Wow. Interesting.
So it's a great little spot, Daniel. It's carefree lifestyle. Take it easy. I used to live in the concrete jungle down in Melbourne. A crazy job in the bureaucracy, doing absurd stuff, trying to get things across the line, helping people.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw it, close to hand on the coal face. I saw millions of dollars of resources being allocated to needy people, and I saw incompetence, and I saw people juggling and people trying to siphon off money for their own needs, and I could no longer deal with it. So I said, Australia's meant to be a good place. I wasn't born in Baghdad. This isn't Kabul. So I'm going to go live on the water and just take it easy. And what do you know? I'm here on the edge.
Oh, well, there you go. Hey, I'm zooming in on your background. See, you got Trump's election there in the back with the American flag. Oh, look at that, man! You know what? I deem you to be an official
I decked
American.
it out for you, man.
Man, you are officially an American.
Damn
Big,
straight. And I got my peace, my love, and my harmony for you as well, Daniel.
and who's that on your chair?
That's Donald Trump right here. His little bobblehead. He's just making an appearance on Halloween.
Wow, man, you did come prepared. Hey, we got questions coming in for you. Doreen says, Australian Ben, do you see Biden getting reelected?
No, I see the Democrats not accepting Donald Trump winning the election, clearly. I see a reluctance by Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey after their testimonies last week to say they will not report the results of the election until somebody, who we don't know who this person is going to tell the American people that it's happened. It can't be the Electoral College. If Fox News goes with it, it won't be them. We just recently heard in the last 48 hours, I believe Nancy Pelosi said something akin to, Donald Trump's leaving. And it's as simple as that. And regardless of what happens in the election, come January the 20th or thereabouts when the inauguration happens, he's going to vacate. They've cooked the books, Daniel. And I think what we really have, we see through it now. We're through the looking glass. We know the Democrats are totally hostile to what America stands for and what they do. We understand they're globalist driven, and we understand they're going for this election and they're ready to cut the head of the Statue of Liberty in doing so.
Wow.
Okay? Mm-hmm. So you guys, you got to get out and vote. But you know what? Everyone that's already wants to vote for Trump has already done it. They're going to cook the books. So how do you respond? What's the response? Joe Biden is addled. He's an old man. He can be ridiculed on a daily basis. He has to be taken away from public situations by his handlers because he breaks down. And they can't replace him with a clone like they did Hillary Clinton because his face has already been pulled tight and he's already had the plugs in for 20 years. So Joe Biden isn't going to be able to convince anyone. And he's made many faux pas recently and maybe some Freudian slips when he's referred to, I'm Joe Biden, I'm Kamala Harris's running mate.
Mm-hmm.
And mate, remember that laugh and remember that shriek. So Hillary Clinton said, you're not accepting it, Daniel. You're not accepting it. So what are you going to do, man? Rocky Balboa needs to stand up. You need Arnold Schwarzenegger playing commando. You need the best president in America getting everyone behind him. And you need to say, no bloody way. And when they try to storm the White House, and they will at some stage try to storm the White House, Mike Pence, brass knuckles,
boom.
Chuck Schumer, done and dusted, mate. It's got to be. The sheriff's got to roll into town, Daniel. Now, if you have to rustle up some cowboys from Indianapolis and get there and do it, bikers for Trump, truckers for Trump, you name it, mate. It's got to happen because the world's at stake, bro. And the world's at stake.
We got bikers for Trump. We got truckers for Trump. We got farmers for Trump. We got African Americans for Trump. We got everybody for Trump. I mean, so he's got a huge, huge following, and he's the only leader that I have ever seen where the people start chanting, "We love you." Have you seen that?
Yeah, I see it. The opposition wants to call that thing that you see the cult of Trump. It was never the cult of Trump. It was the cult of true liberty, true purpose, the true destiny, and the harmony of people and acceptance and tolerance for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was a meritocracy. And that was the way it went. And if you worked harder than somebody, well, you might have got better rewards. Not everyone that works hard becomes a millionaire, Daniel. But that's not the goal. You're able to live your life how you wish to live it. The Democrats and what they want to do to eliminate that belief system, they've anchored that and call it Trump. I've seen idiots on CNN in the last 24, 48 hours as well saying things akin to, or no, paraphrasing exactly what they say. When I see the red hat, that's actually a white hood. You have, and the media reports it as gospel, and it's not true, Daniel. It's not true whatsoever.
No.
And this divide, mate, One America network can't do everything that needs to be done.
No.
Dave Hodges spoke about the sheriff. It's the local sheriff, man. It has to be.
Well, let me ask you, do you have in Australia, is there like a Democrat and Republican Party, kind of left and right thing going on there too?
Yeah, we do. Coke versus Pepsi, left wing versus right wing, but it's two wings of the same bird.
Mm-hmm.
We've just had elections. They call themselves Liberal and Labor. What's crazy in Australia is the Conservative Party call themselves the Liberal Party, and the Progressive Party call themselves the Labor Party.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, they're interchangeable. They sack who they want to sack. We've had 5 prime minister changes in the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, when somebody hasn't gotten on board, they get rid of them. It's the globalist model. Remember, Daniel, this globalist model is a real thing and it's happening, and Trump is the one there to stop it.
Do you see any, from your perspective, down under, uh, do you see any divine component to Trump being in office and fighting these forces? Or you think it's just his skill as a businessman and an outsider? Is it just a random luck in a period of time and space?
No, there's divine providence behind it. There has to be, because this is all according to plan, and this is all written down long before us, and this is biblical prophecy unfolding before our very eyes. We also know, was his name Kim Clement? And he had the Trump prophecies years before, and he boldly proclaimed that there would be a man come onto the stage after Obama. He would be God's trumpet. And there is significant correlations with Donald Trump and biblical prophecy in regards to 777. There are numerous instances in regards to Donald Trump's date of birth, inaugural dates, etc., that he was in the White House. And evangelical Christians are right there. It would be a terrible shame if Donald Trump isn't able to fulfill what people think correlates with the book of Revelation. But having said that, it would be okay. It's not all bad, because now we're clearly distinguished who's with who. We know which side we're on, and then we can clearly look forward to his coming return.
Hmm.
It has to happen sooner or later, Daniel.
Okay. Now, at some point, Australia passed laws to seize guns. Is that right?
Yeah, they did. They totally seized guns. It was
How
after
did
the
that go?
massacre.
How did that go?
Well, there were several thousand people that were adamantly opposed
Okay.
to that happening and that taking place. But much like the mask and people adhering to the mask, they said, listen, this is for the safety of everybody. You don't need guns in your home. Do the right thing. The government's buying them back from you. They're giving you market rate for them. They're not giving you less than what they're worth unless they're collector's items. And in many cases, that did happen. But in reality, the government said, here's the value for them. We're taking them. And this will prevent a further tragedy. And what they go on to say is, we've never had a massacre like that since the guns were taken. But they exclude the absolute fact that on a daily basis, we have shootings across Australia by gang members who have free access to pistols and firearms, 9mm Berettas, you name it. All the bad guys have got them whenever they want them. America's got far too many guns to get rid of, and you've got far too many people, and you can't have 1 million Wacos. And you would have 1 million Wacos. You're not going to give them up. Remember Alex Jones, 1776 will commence again if you attempt to take our firearms. Right. And it doesn't matter how many lemmings you get out here on the streets begging to give them back. You will not relinquish them. You can't.
So what are the signs that we need to look for? Because you guys obviously in our future, where you're at is where they're trying to drag us to. So wasn't there like a major shooting at a school that caused everybody to say we've got to get the guns, or was it just incremental stuff that hey, let's vote on guns? No particular issue happened.
In Australia, the catalyst was in 1996. It was a massacre down in Tasmania. It was called the Port Arthur Massacre. Over 30 people were executed. It was a tourist facility down in the bush at the bottom of Australia in Tasmania. And a madman arrived with a couple of guns, and he decided to go hunting people. And he executed women and he executed children. Subsequently, the investigation proved that many of these victims were shot with the same bullet. And what that means is that you can imagine there'd be a crowded cafe, there'd be lots of people sitting in tables, But if you're able to go in there and shoot a person and the bullet travels through them, out the other side, into another person out the other side, well, the caliber of the ammunition obviously has to be substantial. But more importantly, the position of where the shooter was firing from. You cannot achieve such a devastating impact with the trajectory if you're shooting from shoulder range. You had to be shooting from hip, Daniel.
So you're
There was a
you're
major. I'll just say this, mate. There was a major investigation done, and they determined that the trajectory of the bullets were all fired from the hip, and basically the conspiracy theory is it was a false flag to strip the guns from the people. The government sent down some of our special forces or black ops. It was a 3-team triangulation, and basically they were shooting fish in a barrel. They walked in, executed many people. Several people that were shot in the head with the same bullet. So maybe they lined them all up and then said, bang, and it went through. But it was a terrible thing, Daniel, and it was covered up. The man who they say perpetrated the attack has been locked in solitary confinement forever. He was adjudicated to have a below average IQ, I think, in the realm of 85 or 90. And, it was closed up. The Prime Minister said, we're taking the guns, and that's what happened.
So the lesson we can learn is that if it's something on that scale happens here, while it's going to be as sad and pathetic as it is, that we should know that we can't give up our guns because there is such a tragedy.
That's right. Okay. In Scotland, they were able to take away the guns because a young boy arrived at school, I think, back in the early 90s, and he'd taken his father's revolver and he shot a couple of children. That was enough. One small shooting with only half a dozen children tragically lost. One is too many.
Right.
So that was enough for them. In England, it was similar. Since they've taken the guns away from people in England, violent crime and knife crime has spiraled out of so much control that the city is just, it's outrageous. They have, beheadings on the streets of London not regularly, but several times a year as well, Daniel. In America, if they attempt to take the guns, which they will, but you can't let it happen, I feel that it's a showdown, man. You guys are cowboys. You have to lock and load. Do you know what I mean? Like, these things are real.
Right.
The Alamo was a real thing.
Right.
It's a sad thing because we want to be civil, and you guys are civil, but they're playing the devil's game.
Yeah, we are a bunch of cowboys over here. Hey, Max Vogan says, hey, Ben, do they allow late-term abortions in Australia?
They do, and it's absolutely tragic. The absolutely crazy globalist that's got Melbourne in lockdown, Dan Andrews, the Premier, who's like the governor down there at the COVID capital of Australia, he introduced laws for full-term late abortion up until the point of death. And it's always in regards to the safety of women.
Yeah, right.
He signed that into law a few years ago. And earlier on this year, up here in the state that I live in the north of Australia, Queensland, the Premier, who is a female, Anastasia Palaszczuk, and several other prominent women in government, including the opposition to Anastasia Palaszczuk, her name was Deb Frecklington, they both got on board and signed and had a big celebration that they were able to introduce full-term late abortion for all women, standard across the board, no questions asked. And what's even worse is when we've read into some of this legislation, teen girls, 14-year-olds, they could speak to somebody at school and they can be taken somewhere and they can have an abortion without their parents knowing. And obviously with a medical procedure as such, there may be some, repercussions in the immediate interim. So those children have to be spirited away somewhere. So kids go on school camp every year, Daniel. Well, it just so happens that they can term it for them, because even if the girl's 3 months pregnant, so long as she's not really showing to her parents, and teen girls hide stuff from their parents all the time. So yeah, man, abortion's terrible. And there's many people in Australia, including Australia's most famous international rugby player, Israel Folau, that say all of the recent disasters in Australia, including droughts and major bushfires, are the result of condemnations from God for us passing same-sex marriage laws, for us doing these abortion laws. Could be, most likely is. But
Well,
we'll
I
leave
think
it in God's hands.
Australia. I think we got you beat here in the United States because I think the governor of New Jersey, I think it was New Jersey, that said you can have abortions after birth. So I guess I think in that way.
Daniel, I saw that. Ralph Norton,
Mm-hmm.
whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Daniel, there's not much you can say. They're fully given over, but for the grace of God, to demonic possession, in this sense that they believe they are empowering women by snuffing out life inside of women. And I wouldn't normally discuss this issue, Daniel, but I've had personal experience with some women, not in the sense that I've impregnated them and they've gone on to have an abortion, but I know women who have had abortions, and young women. And I also know some women that had several abortions, not more than a handful, but by the time they're 25, 26, because of careless actions and reckless sexual behavior, they found themselves in situations where they thought abortion was the best solution. And I can tell you, with hindsight, in 100% of those cases, all of those women bemoan the fact and they ache. I'm sorry, mate, we've just got boats going by here if there's a little bit of outside noise.
Mm-hmm.
But they bemoan the fact, Daniel, and they ache for the loss that they put themselves through. It's a tragic thing, and it's so hard to talk about because women feel it. And they feel it way differently than men, and it's something that lingers for a long time, and it sears their conscience. With some women, they revolt away from it after the fact, and they will never do it again. For other women, they have celebration parties, Daniel. And you talk about in America, mate. I've seen footage of celebration parties for young women on campus and involved in fraternities that have abortion parties, and they think that's great. And then I've also recently read some statistics which have determined African Americans would not be a minority in America, but for abortion and Planned Parenthood and the devious and insidious plan of Margaret Sanger. And there's been over 50 million black babies aborted in America in 50 years.
Right, and that's the dirty little secret of the Democrat Party. To this day, most African Americans do not know that the Planned Parenthood was created to get rid of black babies, and that's why you always find Planned Parenthood in poor minorities neighborhoods. And so while they're wanting their vote, they're really trying to cull them from the population. It's really despicable. I wish they'd find out the truth. All right, got a couple more questions for you, Australian Ben. How about this one? It says, Z Ryder says, do Australian police abide by a constitution or a Bill of Rights type of thing?
Our Bill of Rights in Australia doesn't exist per se in regards to comparing it against America's Bill of Rights. Our police are there to enforce laws. Police enforce laws. Police aren't there to be public servants. That time has passed. The police now are monetized, and they are out to seek infringements upon people and then give them financial penalties. It's a sad situation when we can have 300 people riding in the streets in the suburbs of somewhere in Australia, and police arrive on horses and riot shields, and they're told to stand down whilst they're having bricks thrown at them, because that may infringe on cultural differences with the people who are having such a wild and outlandish party. Police are bought and paid for here. Police are controlled. At its face, there's great people, great police officers, majority, all of those things.
Well, the good news is here, the police want to respond to these type of things, but if they're in a Democrat city, they're not allowed to. But the president, Trump, has been the most vocal supporter of police in the country. He's been getting all of the police union support because they want to enforce the laws, but they want to do it according to the Constitution. And, so there's a difference there. And it's sad to hear that your police there are kind of bought off like that. But aren't there some good cops in there somewhere?
100%, and there is, and that's the majority, Daniel. We can't lose sight of the message here, but we have to understand even the good ones, they're under the controls of whoever's running this ship. And it's the same with school teachers who are implementing the curriculum. We've now just had some laws passed, Daniel, where those 14-year-old girls that are allowed to have an abortion through their school secretly away from their parents are also allowed to be given medication and steroids to help them transition sexually, because they're a boy trapped in a girl's body or a girl trapped in a boy's body.
That crap's going
And
on over there, huh?
and the parents can find out after the fact.
Mm.
Once upon a time, we used to replicate things that happened in America in this country, but the things were barbecues, they were rallies down the street, they were community parties, they were revivals. And now what we get from America is a polluted version of whatever your true culture was and what it stood for. And yeah, it's poisoning the world, Daniel. It's pretty bad, mate, and pretty sad.
Well, I would agree with you on that, and that's why there's a raging battle over here. And this election coming up is either going to put the nail in the coffin, or it's going to lengthen it out. But even if it lengthens out, it seems like all the force and momentum and the power is going to push it right back into place.
Daniel, okay, Trump, Obama, Hillary, Biden, the deep state, and why America must survive. Nancy Pelosi can't do the job. Trump needs to survive because you need to survive, Daniel. The other good people listening to The Edge need to survive.
Mm-hmm.
America was built over a long time by people that wanted to survive, and they built the best civilized or the best country the Earth's ever seen. And once again, everyone's got original sin, and not all countries are perfect, but there isn't utopia. Government can never build utopia. You cannot legislate crimes against immorality, Daniel. Murder is illegal, but people still murder. So laws against the law abiding aren't the solution. The true utopia is in heaven, and we're living our best here, and hopefully we're in line, mate, to get there when the time comes.
Mm-hmm.
One side of government, one side of the population, the true belief, the true core of America, the Bible Belt, the heartland, the living, breathing heart of America that resonates around the world, that inspires everyone, that is the big boy in town, that is the protector of the modern world, that is on the right side of history, that does have to do the bad things in bad areas of the world when other nations can't. And they do those things to save us all, but they do it at a sacrifice to themselves. And that's why it's necessary to stand for the flag as well, Daniel, and for the anthem.
Wow. And
But
we really appreciate
yeah,
that
mate,
flag in your background, man. I guess I should have had a Australian flag back here, man. All right, here's another question for you. So, Ben, do you think that human cloning is possible, and has it penetrated the highest level of government?
not only is it possible, on public record, there was a press conference held on the streets of Los Angeles. The company's name is Clone Aid, AID, Clone Aid.
Mm-hmm.
There's a gentleman, his name is Raul, and he believes he's I'm not sure, if he's not a grey, he's not a reptilian, he's something though. And he believes he's an alien human hybrid.
Oh.
And you can look him up. And in 1999, they held a press conference in Los Angeles, and you can pull up the clip, and they called it the announcement of Adam and Eve. And they presented a teenage male who was naked next to a teenage female who was naked on the streets, and this was Adam and this was Eve. And they were the first humans 2.0. Oh. And ever since Clone Aid, they're called the Raelian movement. Not Rael, he's called Raelians. So if you look up Clone Aid and Raelians, you'll find out they've been doing this on public record since 1999. The Chinese have been doing crazy things. Alex Jones has been talking about animal-human hybrids for a bloody long time. Sherry Shriner said back in the day that at level 6 of Area 51, I think it's called Nightmare Hall, there's a whole array of human alien hybrids and children in cages and sinister scientists doing everything Mengele couldn't even dream of. So do clones exist? Damn right. And I think they've got them out there. And we've known for a long time as well that world leaders have been cloned and have been using body doubles and lookalikes. When you get to the most elite levels, at the billionaire level, Daniel, I can assure you, just because of the depravity of the human mind, especially within man, and especially when it comes to fantasy, And when you're at a billionaire level, you've got total control. So you would certainly have a cloning facility, and you would have Beyonce, you would have Britney Spears, you would have who you want, when you want, and they'd be there as living real dolls. They'll be automatons for you, so you'd be able to program them how you want. I know they sell real sex dolls, synthetic dolls out of Los Angeles. They're about $5,000 each, and you can have them made to your own specifications.
Wow.
And there's guys around the world, they're called incels, and lots of gamers, and they've got 5 or 6 of these real sex dolls sitting on their couch at home. So cloning is bloody close for the public. CloneAid says they've been doing it since '99, but they're ridiculed, but they're still proceeding taking money, and they'll say they do it for, I think, 10 grand or 100,000 US.
Wow.
It's amazing stuff. The Chinese are into it. Animal human hybrids, it's all there, man.
Wow. All right.
But it's a specialty on its own, Daniel. There's no way to be across all of that type of stuff, you know. Mm-hmm. When Steve Quayle speaks about what happened in Afghanistan and giants and what's going on with certain people, and Phil Schneider talked about shootouts back in the day, and he got his hand blasted off with a laser beam carried by a reptilian. Right. So, boy, oh boy, man.
Hey, all right.
It's all happening.
Somebody wants to know, do you have any pets, and what's your favorite animal?
No, I don't have any pets. My favorite animal, I like lions, Daniel. I really like lions because they're doing their own thing, and if you leave them alone, you'll be fine. But they've got to eat, so don't infringe on their territory, and they won't eat you.
All right.
But you know, lions are beautiful. Big cats, Daniel. Big cats are beautiful. There's something very majestic about big cats.
Okay.
And you know, in the flesh, big cats, lions, mate. I love it.
Okay. Do you have Chinese military running around Australia?
Yeah, we've had them here for a bloody long time, mate. They've totally infiltrated this country. Our number one station, which is our intelligence operation, referred to as ASIO, the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation, they built a brand new facility several years back in Canberra, the nation's capital. As it turned out, they allowed the Israelis to build it, and they reverse engineered and back engineered everything into the electronics, and then they allowed the Chinese to come over and put the IT all through it. And then they put all the Australian intelligence in there, including ASIS, the Australian Security Intelligence Service, which is sort of like the CIA and NSA, and they put it all in this hub in Canberra.
Right.
And then 2 years later, they said, hang on a second, some people are tapping in right here. And as it turned out, China was plugged right into our intelligence, almost taking everything. Thankfully, because of the foresight of some, genius Australians in our military, who are multi-generational, they were able to siphon off some of our most precious intel, and they were able to compartmentalize that in other offshoots that weren't ASIO or ASIS. But it's an interesting time down here, mate. Just on a quick side note, our Parliament building in Canberra was built about 10 times the size of what was necessary. And it was built inside the mountain. It's bigger than yours, mate. It's bigger than Congress. It's bigger than a lot.
Wow.
And it's actually much like your Denver airport has got a plaque inside that says this is the New World structure, and there's murals and things on the wall. Well, Parliament House Australia is meant to be ground zero for the United Nations, because New York, as we know, is going to go total wiped out. See you later, Charlie, with New York City. And the Northern Hemisphere is going to have far too much radiation if anything does happen, or biological. So they start the New World Order government down here in Australia. Wow. And the world can't really argue because we're so far away. And if they want to bring war, that means they're bringing war against the United Nations. What terrible people.
All right. Truth and Treasure says, Ben, in the Bible, it speaks of the wheat and the tares. What do you think they are?
Well, the Bible's quite clear on who the wheat and the tares are. Eve was corrupted, and there was a physical interaction, and then ever since then there's been children born. And some of those children are of their father, the liar, the devil, the murderer from the start, and other people are not. And some say the quest for the Holy Grail has been sought out by the dark side because that's the final thing they need to corrupt the last of the human flesh. We're being infiltrated. There's been so many Nephilims and everything taking place over time that there may be only a small true remnant of the true human. And Sherry Shiner, I think, said that was the seed line of King David. And that's been going on for a long time. And that also ties into the book of Enoch and to Elijah.
That sounds a bit like in the days of Noah. They tried to corrupt the seed of Noah, who was the last one. Do you think that the coming vaccine for Cooties 19 is going to corrupt the DNA of humans?
They say it could corrupt. What we have to be concerned about is, does the vaccine have smart technology activation inside of it?
Right.
Is it equipped with nanotechnology? And is that then in alignment with the rollout and phasing in of 5G? And if 5G is already turned on, plugged in, switched on, which it is, and there's already this invisible cloud that's going around us and 5G beam left, right, and center, well, who knows, mate? If you get that thing, it might be like getting Neuralink from Elon Musk. It could change you. But I'm not going to be first in line, Daniel. And I'm not really very.
I was hoping you'd take it and then let me know how it worked out.
That's all right. I'm going to line up Pelosi, mate. Let's put Pelosi up there, then Chuck Schumer, then AOC, and then Bernie Sanders complete his way out of it. But let's shoot him up as well, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so you just listed off a list of whack jobs. Let me ask you something. Are those the tears?
Yeah. So the serpent seed line, Daniel. There's a separate seed line here. Those that say they are Jews but are not. They are the synagogue of Satan. These people, that's their way of life because they've got a plan, and that plan is the breakaway civilization. They've infiltrated every aspect of government, and they've entertained us all into a lull. And people are trying to desperately escape, but they don't know where to escape to or what to attach themselves to, because so many people around them that are giving them the information, and I'm talking about the mainstream media and the way that disseminates information, people's heads are spinning. So people are turning within themselves to find themselves, and through doing so, hopefully they're able to identify, hey, I know I'm not a part of that serpent seed line. I know I'm not a part of this breakaway civilization that wishes to corrupt humanity and implement the mark of the beast, etc. The separation certainly happened, and there's been many instances of fallen angels coming down, interacting with human women. Genesis 6:4 talks about it when it says, the sons of God saw that the earthly women were nice and fair. They came down and they took wives, all they chose, and then those wives bore children to these men of renown, these Nephilim, and their children went on to become mighty men, much like Hercules. And if you think of sort of Greek mythology, these people were possibly the Titans. The war against heaven is still always there, and that's why Michael's fighting it every single day. He's still trying to get back in to ascend above the highest of heights. Lucifer's still there trying to wage that war, but he's been cast out, but they're still going back and forth between us. And the evil is bleeding into the third dimension, Daniel, and we can take it whenever we like it, and we can try to resist it when we need to.
Right, that's a good way to say it. It's sort of bleeding in. Rest Dizdar called it the Black Awakening, where the sort of the veil's been lifted, or the partition's been separated, or the dimensions now are merging in somewhat, and things are coming in and out of those dimensions. And speaking of interdimensionality, do you guys have Bigfoot down there in Australia?
I haven't seen Bigfoot, but we've got these things called bunyips. B-U-N-Y-I-P. Pull up a picture of a bunyip, Daniel.
Well, how do you spell it?
And B for Ben, I for India, N-Y-I-P.
Wow. What's this thing?
That thing's a swamp creature, Daniel. It lives by billabongs and comes out and takes hold of jolly swagmen late at night. It haunts them in their dreams, mate.
Wow.
It is the headless horseman. but he comes out, and they think people are killed by bunyips in Australia. There's a famous Australian song called Once a Jolly Jumbuck, and you can read all about it, and there's many, many tales of this thing. I think Bigfoot, Daniel, might be a product of aliens, and I think Bigfoots might be like aliens' dogs, and they sent them here to Earth to just kick back and have a look around to see what's going on, because at some stage when humans weren't here, there were monkeys, and the monkeys are doing their thing. So the aliens needed someone to come down here and observe what's going on. And how's the easiest way? Just like the predator, he can place himself amongst the wild population. Well, the only dominant species back then in the jungles were the monkeys. So the aliens make the Bigfoot, they send them here, and they're on recon missions.
Well, I think I got a picture of it in the background called a bunyip. Is that? Can you see that?
No, I can't see it.
Okay,
but,
well,
I think Jade mentioned it in the chat, and she's right. That's what it is. It's like a yowie. It can be your friend, though, Daniel. It could almost be like a genie.
Oh, yeah.
But it also can become a demonic entity that'll rip you limb from limb.
You say it can be my friend?
Potentially, Daniel. You could befriend a Bigfoot.
Yeah. Well,
He'd like your honey, Daniel.
Well, man, he could buy some of my honey. Man, obviously Bigfoot, he got problems. He needs a haircut and things like that. We can set him up, give him a suit jacket like you got, and maybe he can do the show. But
Daniel, can I ask you? There was once an American werewolf in London. Has there ever been an American Bigfoot in New York City?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Australian Ben. As a matter of fact, because the Bigfoot show on Amazon, I forget what it's called, Finding Bigfoot, I think, showed right outside of New York that there's evidence of Bigfoot running around in the forest out there.
Well, who could he be, Daniel? Is it a suit or is it a real guy? And where do you think the Bigfoot came from? Because I know you dream about him, you think about him. The Bigfoot's been on your mind for a while. He's been perplexing you, Daniel.
He's been Australian. Can I confess, man? He's been bugging me. Okay, obviously, I feel like you're my therapist. This creature, okay, he's been haunting me in my dreams. I mean, people talk about lesbian Bigfoots. I mean, big Bigfoot, small, miniature ones. I mean, these things coming around. I can't get no sleep because I'm thinking they're out there somewhere. What can I do?
I think you can just watch Caravan of Courage more frequently, Daniel, and hopefully think about the good guys in Caravan of Courage.
Okay.
And not so much about the bad guys in a Bigfoot who remind you of Jason or Freddy.
Okay. Azura says, Australian Ben, what's your opinion of adrenochrome being procured by the elites?
Adrenochrome is a real thing. It's a real substance. They utilize it to enhance themselves with the adrenalized blood of people who they draw that blood from. There's sinister elements involved in it is that they say they have to torture children to the brink of death and sometimes to death to energize these children with such terror that their blood is like pure cocaine, but it's pure adrenochrome. It's horrible, Daniel. Red rooms, mate. Like the dark net. People are doing real terrible things and chopping up bodies. People are butchers, but they're not always just cutting up cows. They cut up people just like you cut up cows, and they don't second guess it. And that ties into chopping off heads as well, Daniel, because if people are walking to a church and chop off a head, there's a proclivity for some people to butcher people.
Well, this is the Halloween part of the show right there. Man, talk about people's getting their heads cut off. Wow. So, as somebody asked a question, do you think that our FBI will go after the Bidens?
I thought they were already meant to be going after the Bidens. I thought they already had the laptop.
They've had it for a year.
I thought the director of intelligence came out and said this has got nothing to do with the Russian interference campaign. Right. I believe he said this is a real laptop, and I believe Joe Biden hasn't disavowed it whatsoever. He just prefers not to talk about it. I tried to reason this out in my mind, Daniel, and this is what I've sort of come up with. Joe Biden legitimately does not believe he's done anything wrong because the money he has earned for his son, he's done it offshore from America. He hasn't done it within America, although he's taken American dollars and using American influence in the apparatus of government to be able to do it. He thinks, I'm not taking it from here. So that's all cool. So he thinks he's above board. But when you have a person in government who's been doing these things for such a long time, you can't have them in government any longer, Daniel.
No.
So do the FBI have info on him? Hell yeah, they do. But his son's been compromised. You know, Joe Biden is quite happy to eat Chinese sausage any day of the week, and he most likely has for 30 years. Well, if they compromised his son this way, they compromised him that way.
Well, we won't go back to our earlier conversation, what was going on with some of these guys, but the Chinese, some like Q of the Chinese, some dissident group of the Chinese has been releasing the porn videos on that laptop. They've got overseas, the Chinese got that laptop already, man, just like they probably had Hillary's emails. They've got all that information. They're the ones releasing some of this stuff, and the FBI knows that it's on that, and it's just cooperating. So the question is, who doesn't have the information in that laptop? I mean, the man should be in jail. And when he was asked, had he made any money, Australian Ben, he can say, no, I've never taken a penny, because he hasn't. It's in escrow right now. It's in a hidden account right now. It's been money laundered. And no, he hasn't. It's for his retirement. He's got that money sitting out there, and somehow or another, it'll just kind of filter through back into his life. Maybe when he's in the White House, maybe when he's out, but it's still out there. He's just saying he can say, I didn't take anything, because he hasn't got it yet, but it's out there.
It's ridiculous. I heard Rush Limbaugh say something the other day, and he said that Joe Biden has 4 estates, 4 mansions, and Joe Biden's been making $200,000 a year for many of these years, and these mansions alone are $12 million, and the upkeep alone on those things is outrageous, and every one of his family members lives accordingly, and there's no way you can square the ledger. Similarly with Maxine Waters, similarly with Nancy Pelosi, right. Similarly with the Clintons. Cash for comment. You want to kill them, Daniel. You want to get rid of them, man. They're destroying America. You've got to do something, man.
Well, we're trying, man. We're trying over here. So, our moderator, Jade, you know her well, in the live chat says, what do the stars represent on the Australian flag?
They represent the Southern Cross. We have different stars in the sky down here in the Southern Hemisphere to what you guys have up there.
Okay.
And the Southern Cross, it's now viewed pretty much like your Confederate flag is viewed, as a matter of fact.
Really?
They say it's a terrible thing. It's a throwback to the frontier times. That was a time when you white people came here and were genocidal, and you enslaved all the indigenous people, and you poisoned them and eliminated them and destroyed their culture and language. So that flag is a representation of that. There are calls as we speak to replace the Australian flag with this indigenous flag that will remove those stars. You also have patriots in Australia, and they can be girls and guys. They might be Olympians, Daniel, so they cherish the nation. They might have won a medal for the country. So they want to be patriots, and they will get the Southern Cross tattooed on them somewhere, which is just sort of 5 little stars. Some of those people now have been told to cover up. It's, we've got the Union Jack in the top left corner of the Australian flag. Not many people notice it, but actually built within the Union Jack is the swastika. Whoa. And it's clear and it's there, and it's in the lines that are on the inside. And there's actually 2 thin lines that run parallel on all 4 corners. Yeah. And you can see it line up as that. That ties in with the British royal family, who are actually Saxe Coburg Gotha. They're Bavarians, they're Germans, and they're Illuminati. So the infestation on Halloween, yeah, it's here in Australia, and it's across all levels.
So now is this Sunday where you're at? What day is it in your country?
It is. It's Sunday morning, and it's nearly midday. Sorry, Daniel, I was up pretty late last night, mate. We had a big election here in Queensland. It was the state election last evening.
Wow, who won?
And we had a big dinner and everything after that. So
did you?
I'm happy to be here.
Okay. Did your person win?
Um, I don't have a person. The socialist lady who's in stayed in. Uh, that's the way it happens. The opposition, who was the other lady that ran against her, was weak as water.
Mhm.
In her consolation speech, she said, "Look, we've all got to come together. It was a fair fight. We all tried our very best. Let's gear up and let's get ready for another 4 years."
Mm,
But
okay.
that's not what people want to hear. People want to hear, "Get the hell out. We're changing this, and it's getting changed for the betterment of everyone." But that can't really happen,
All right.
which is a shame.
All right. Well, Australian Ben, final wrap up here. We got an election in about 2 days, and I call it we got 2 days to flatten the curve of the Democrat communist machine. Um, they always talk about flattening the curve. That's the curve we want to flatten. So, what's your give me your perspective, your final perspectives on the U.S. election, and what does it mean?
The American election means more than anyone could possibly think because it's the last best hope for the world going forward. Regardless of your political affiliation, there's come a point now in America where you are past the looking glass and you understand the dystopian nightmare is not far away if you allow one political party to usurp the Electoral College and to usurp the process of retaining Trump in the White House. Daniel, I don't want America to go down, man. Like, there's people all around the world that are like, come on, dude. And, it's not hyperbolic to say such things. The reckoning is right now. Um, pray. Pray for America and pray that you can escape these things. And pray that there can be found some tolerance in the hostile hearts against Donald Trump.
Mm,
Because one way or the other, he's going to be there for another few months. And the results of the election, whichever way they go, will still allow him to be there for another few months.
true.
And I'd really like those people to be tamed if they can. Um, it's not easy. You can't change people's minds, but you can implore upon them a sense of generosity and a sense of humanity. Because at its core, nobody wants America to suffer, and the American people don't want American to suffer.
Mm.
You can't be hell bent on tearing down everything your nation stands for and getting rid of one guy who's got 80 million people that love what he's doing. You just can't, Daniel. God bless you all.
Well, everybody watch the program. You heard Australian Ben. He said, we can't let that happen. Australian Ben, I really appreciate you coming on the Edge broadcast tonight on Halloween night in the United States. Can we have you back again sometime?
Yeah, you can, Daniel. Thank you very much. And let's talk about serial killers.
All right. Sounds great, man. Dude, great Edge topic, serial killers. Australian Ben, thanks for coming on the show.
Bon voyage.
Bye bye. All right, everybody.